But those are the stories we've been tracking for you the last 24 hours. Earlier part of the day will form part of our conversation for the show. Kayode joins me now as we talk about some of the things you have been talking about tonight.
Absolutely, Jeffrey. It's also interesting to see what's playing out at the Euros. You know, Spain knocking out France, and we see who wins tonight between England and the Netherlands. So will he come home? If it's not the full football of FIFA, is Euros coming home and the Copa America as well. Yeah. Canada's run, quite impressive, but Argentina said, you have to end here, okay? Let's take it up from here. But it's quite impressive to see what Canada did at that tournament. But what are you saying about the other stories, sports aside? There's been lots of things really going on. First, of course, is the protest by the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, and the non-academic staff union, NASU. So there's ASU, right? ASU is academic staff, the lecturers. Now there's the SANU, senior staff members who are not academics, but they're also administrators, they're staff within the university and the non-academic staff union. So they're responsible for power, you know, things like, you know, the infrastructure in universities. So it is, exactly. So they essentially down tool, because they were not in the office, they were protesting, so it was a strike, a one-day strike. So
protest?
Well, it's actually a strike, because I spoke with the president, and I was telling him, you call this a protest, but you were not at work, so obviously it's a strike. And he said, well, yes, obviously, because they're not at work, so that's another way to go on strike without going on strike. But what are you saying about this? First user, Collins Opara, that's Collins Opara on X, says, the federal government is still withholding salaries from non-teaching staff after 4 months. That's outrageous. These dedicated individuals work tirelessly behind the scenes to keep universities running smoothly. And this is how they're treated. This user says it is disgraceful.
All right. Maybe you take the next one as well.
On to the next one. This one is from Christopher. Yeah, Christopher Jeremy. There you go. Says, Nawa for us. This is... let me translate. Jeffrey, how do you translate Nawa for us?
Nawa.
You need to get acquainted with the lingo to really understand. But it's essentially saying, wow, are we really doing this? Everything must end up in strikes. That's what this user says. But it was a protest, but of course, it was also a strike at the same time, a one-day strike. Right.
Well, that's what makes our language unique. Sometimes you don't need to know how to translate it. Just understand the language. But for our international audience, more like, what is it again? Kind of. Yeah. So let's talk about the creation of the Livestock Development Ministry by the president. Patu said, to me, all we need is an effective department within the Ministry of Agriculture to be responsible for livestock development. That if we don't have such in place already. Now this ministry, or this new ministry, will have departments and units. They will also have agencies, by the way. In the end, 1,000 and more staff members, civil servants, will be hired and redeployed to the ministry from other countries, or from other ministries, I should say. It will likely increase the number of civil servants and the amount of salary government pays. Shouldn't we be, cutting the number of ministries to cut cost of governance? Good points.
You know, when this announcement came through, Jeffrey, a lot of people went to the Orosoye report, for those who have it, and those who have some, I think, look at, is there a place that the report says
suggested
a new ministry? And they're like, no, actually, it says you should shrink and merge some of them. But then it's a classic debate, Jeffrey. So there's been the crisis, the livestock farmers or the herders saying, well, we have freedom of movement, we can move around. And the farmers say, well, you're moving into our farms, and there's been that conflict. Some say it's not even a conflict, it's an onslaught. So we've had this for decades. Will this ministry solve it? If it will solve it, then would it be logical to have a ministry? Lots of questions, but the devil is in the details. So we'll wait to see the details. But take a look at what Annie has to say on this one. Annie Ukwane says, is this supposed to be a sub-branch of the Ministry of Agriculture? Now take a look at this next one. He, and I imagine you're saying the president, can as well create a Ministry of Plants and Horticulture, as well as a Ministry of Shift Cultivation and Deforestation. I can tell you this, Annie is quite versed in science.
All right, not just Annie's talking. Abdullahi Umar Zama says, what about the Ministry of Agriculture? We're talking about cutting the cost of governance by implementing the Orosoye report. And here is the president creating yet another ministry.
And Smart Chooks, that's Ezogu Chukwuemeka, says another ministry, and I think there's a consistency with the reactions today that will require budgetary allocation. We should be cutting down the size of government and not making it larger. So this user is pointing to what he calls a major spending problem.
Well, NNPC said they want to borrow the crude for cash yet again. You remember the other one? The 3 point something from Afrexim.
Right.
There's another one coming again.
You know the challenge, Jeffrey. So we have Dangote refinery, which needs all of the crude it can get, but we've seen that it's been getting WTI, West Texas Intermediate,
all the way from the US.
Exactly. That's about 1/3. They said it accounts for 1/3.
It's cheaper, but the logistics.
So you wonder, Nigeria, we boast of, in fact, our target is 2 million barrels per day. Dangote does it up to 1 million, but obviously we're not producing as much, and we have other obligations like this that will mean that we cannot cater to our need at home. But you know what?
But some may argue and say, oh, we have the crude, NNPC is taking a share. Now if you borrow you get the cash for crude for cash. We don't even have what to give to Dangote. When IOC sell their own to whoever, we start shouting. Okay, Orisegbene Aigbume says they should also create Ministry of Crude Oil Refining, another one for PMS availability distribution, and lastly the ministry to check theft of crude oil. In fact, create a ministry for every issue on ground that they can't solve. Misplaced priorities, Lord will deliver us, okay? So you see Nigerians are reacting.
Yeah, and the sarcasm is quite huge. Nedu
big one.
NYC, we'll take this last one on this one, says, at these difficult times, when the government should be cutting costs and reducing the size and cost of governance, says it's quite unfortunate, unnecessary, and called for. So what I want to imagine would happen with this is there should be no extra appointment. There should be no extra ministry created, no extra office created.
No extra minister. They already have 2 ministers.
Exactly. So, and I think that's a bit logical. Fine, we know there's a challenge, but you need to work within because Nigerians, for example, don't have the luxury of building a new house, creating a new room. They have to work, or at least work with what they have. So let's work within our means and
optimize the government such that we don't expand and we're owing, we're in debt. We have a lot, we have over 120 trillion naira to pay back. We're not talking about all the subsidies we're paying. We're paying some subsidies, we're not paying some. We're servicing debt. If we look at those numbers, we're going to 150.
Lots of obligations.
Okay, let's talk about that Samoa agreement. The House of Reps, you saw them saying, it looks like a lot of them don't want to hear anything about Samoa. They say suspended. They are quoting Section 12 of the Constitution that it should get to the Assembly first before treaties are signed. So they are saying to the federal government, hold on, you can't implement this as much as you've signed. Let's understand all the details. So Chizi Vincent says, thought they said some part of the agreement doesn't apply to Nigeria. Why suspend it?
Humphrey Obajere says, so is this a confirmation to the fact that the agreement contains that ridiculous clause? You saw the spokesperson of the House, or at least one of the leaders in the House, Professor Nyobere, saying it doesn't contain that. It does not at all.
It just contains suspicious clauses. That's what they are saying. But the NBA says the draft was sent to them. They looked at it. They feel it's okay. Anything that impugns on our integrity and our extant laws or ground norm will not be allowed. But it's an argument for another day. So Chukwuemeka Azubike says, so the fact check was not enough, meaning one truth was in it. Some truth was in it, but how do you suspend something that was signed abroad in front of the EU? What of the money involved? Well, no money involved yet, according to the ministry.
Saraf has this one that's defined Saraf. When they say that LGBT is not contained in the agreement, but by the way, it was originally LGBTI. Because you're wondering, what are all these acronyms?
LGBTQI now. Is it I now?
In that agreement, what the reference was LGBTI originally before it was then pulled out because there was a lot of uproar but it just points to the dimension the world is taking right now. So it says, when they say that LGBT is not contained in the agreement, what does the human right aspect of the agreement entail? It is better we nurture our culture rather than destabilizing our society, says God bless Nigeria.
Okay. Kenya, OH says the reps are under pressure as to the conditions of the Samoa agreement, which made provision for the LGBT as contained. Okay, that's not factual. Reasons they are calling for federal government to suspend the agreement. As we said, there are suspicious clauses, Article 2.9, 2.5, Article 29.5, Article 36.2. Those are the controversial clauses. We remember we had a conversation. Yeah.
There you go. So it's an ongoing debate, absolutely. So wait to see what the federal government has to say about this one. But let's talk about something that came out of our interview with the fan.
Even he ended up in Twitter.
Oh, he actually did. Where she said that 3 of Nigeria's 22 airports profitable, others subsidized. And we joked and said maybe some should be converted to racetracks.
Yeah, maybe they should decommission some.
You know, and just or maybe use them for farms or ranching and all of that. So Nigerians have been reacting. Take a look at this one from Iyabo Awokoya. Says, exactly why, or rather, I'll take that again. Says exactly why we should not be licensing new airports willy-nilly. It's important to put that properly in context. So that's what this user has to say. We should not be licensing new airports.
And that's why some of us are proposing that governors should stop building airports as a bragging rights.
My airport is bigger than yours.
My airport is bigger than yours. Just build an airport for big men to be traveling. That's not the idea of an airport. Hebron Tutsi 61482. Wow. Without government support, most airports in Nigeria will go out of business. I think it's a total failure if 3 out of 22 are working.
It's like you have lots of
bad business
and only 3 are working. Naturally,
it's bad business.
You're meant to look into that. So I think there's a consistency with the reactions. People saying we should close many of it, asking why governors are building more. But let's turn our attention to something else. And this one is from the NERC. When Nigerians hear electricity, naturally, it triggers them.
Antennas are up.
You know,
because
it triggers their curiosity.
We're paying for Gucci light now.
So take a look at what the NERC has to say to Nigerians. And I think we've heard this before, but it's reiterating it, saying, do not pay for transformers, cables, and others. NERC tells Nigerians. So Nigerians in the usual manner responded. Shakiru Oladeji says, paying for these things are the norms in Nigeria. You don't need to ask around, you know it.
We pay for everything. I remember where I was living before, I paid for the cable, I paid for the prepaid, I paid for everything. Igbo Amaka says, laugh out loud, they play. They will ignore you forever if you don't pay. Exactly. They will tell you they have not sent it from Abuja. But if street contribute to pay them, it will appear immediately.
They call it Express.
Express. It's funny, but it's not funny.
Exactly. NERC should go beyond telling Nigerians not to do something. So what are the measures in place to monitor and ensure that whoever does not provide that infrastructure, which of the service providers that does not provide the infrastructure within a certain period is sanctioned? So don't just tell Nigerians. Nigerians are helpless here. They need you to help. So there should be a framework. If you do not provide the infrastructure within this period, there will be sanctions.
Be a reporting channel or
exactly. Something. It should be as simple as that, not tell Nigerians. Take a look at what Gabriel, one Isaiah, has to say, and it reiterates what people have been saying. Any community that refuses to pay is not ready to enjoy light. Can they charge the electricity distribution company to court? So that's a question. Who should they complain to? It's easier said than done.
I think we need to have NEC back on the table.
Yeah.
So because I've spoken to the is it the vice chairman?
Yeah.
We need to have the gentleman back on the table. Daya Jibade says, laugh out loud, they should just do an agreement where they convert what they contribute to buy the transformer and cables into power units for them, because the discos won't provide anything.
Okay, that has a tone of finality, but we need to just look at these things. What is right, what is not right? I know that we're not operating in the ideal a lot of times, so we need to ensure we fix this. Next up is road infrastructure, yet another pain point for a number of Nigerians, but this time in Ogun State. And well, the statement was credited to the governor, Dapo Abiodun, saying that no administration can fix Ogun roads in 8 years. Now, some said this is what other governors want to say, but they're not able to say it out, that I can't fix all the roads in 8 years, but they're trying to be politically correct. But it looks like the Ogun State governor is biting the bullet this morning. So take a look at what Aremo Benjamin Jimoh has to say. Says, well, I think this is unfortunate. So no government can fix Ogun roads in 8 years, but they can collect taxes for same 8 years, right? Whew, that's the first one there.
I knew that statement is going to get him a lot of flax. Yeah. Whether it was right to say it or wrong, is going to get him flax. Fix the road is your job. There is no excuse. Fix the road, the ones you can fix as much as possible, because there are Tony roads, Shango Tado, Abeokuta, this area of Akuta. There are places you do, and it will show that some things are happening, because these things have been there. It's not magic.
Right.
So that's why people are hitting hard on him.
There's a classic debate. So resource allocation. They say that the needs are not, they're infinite, but the resources are obviously finite. So how do you decide which is, what's that scale of preference, or what's that thing called right now?
Okay, sometimes. So for instance, now, Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is one of the most commercially viable roads in the entire country.
Right.
So if it goes bad, it should be a priority. So I'm sure in every state they have those kinds of roads. So when those kinds of roads are bad, you know, just like what the federal government is doing with the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Road, the first 49 or 47 kilometers will be the most viable. May actually bring back all the returns on the investment. There are stretches of that road that are not necessarily viable. So they are focusing on that to get it out as quickly as possible. But they need to make their money back. That's how you prioritize. Okay, Mother Earth says, is it really that hard? If the job is too big for you guys, then don't take it up. There are millions of people who want to lead too. You all campaign with all manner of, in his word, deceit, not mine. When elected, you start complaining.
Well, Power Mode is next. Says at least he should try and fix the ones that are very cogent and urgent.
Exactly.
So I think it ties to the point we're making, have the priority areas. We understand that there's a lot to be done, but again, you know, it's quite interesting. Yes, we say resources are limited, but when people look at those in governance across the board, they see the lifestyle. They wonder, these resources don't look like they are.
Resources are limited. One of the biggest pointers under this administration is what the FCT did with 20-something or 21 billion to spend on the vice president's residence. That's what the economists called the moral hazard of emotionally unintelligent expenditure. When you do that, you can't defend there's no money. You cannot. It's difficult. All right, this person says, Olani online says, I must also fix some roads, especially in Abeokuta, Shagamu, and Ijebu-Ode areas. He said that Abiodun is only giving excuses. That's the governor now.
Well, the government will also tell you the number of kilometers they've fixed so far.
Exactly.
We had a conversation with one of the officials, and he actually pointed out to some of the roads being fixed. But clearly, there are more roads that need to be fixed. And Oba Rems re-echoes that, saying he needs to fix those roads.
He said
they are in fact, they're like,
maybe we'll put that tweet up. That X
varies.
They are like,
they are very
1, 2, 3, very, 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 very. I wish that, so, you see the number of very, this guy, well, you know, I guess he lives in Ogun State. We don't live, we live on this axis of Ogun State. All right. Okay, guys, those are the sorts we've been tracking from all the issues you talk about. So we always promise that whenever you talk on X, we go out there, look out for it, and bring it to the fore to amplify your voice. Your concern is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people at the end of the day. So people always say, Kayode, how come when it comes to election, no matter how remote the area is, INEC will find a polling unit? But when
even
it comes
the politicians will get there.
Yes, will get there to campaign. But when it comes to delivery of dividends of democracy, as we call it, we hear some stories. But, you know, let's put hands together with the government as well as to do the best they can to deliver for us as well. But everybody must take responsibility. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, maybe we'll start with that conversation around livestock transformation. No. Ministry of Livestock Development.
That's it. There was a livestock transformation plan in the previous administration.
We'll catch you.
Stay with us.